Welcome to the Rhizome Fellowship, a transformative 7-month program designed for narrative change practitioners who are envisioning a life-centric future. Named after the rhizome, a fascinating underground structure that symbolizes interconnectedness and growth, this fellowship invites you to tap into the power of narrative-led systems change. In a world facing a deep systemic crisis, we recognize the necessity of narrative practitioners dedicated to challenge the assumptions of capitalist modernity. Our goal is to cultivate new, ancient, and emerging narratives that honor life and question structural inequality. It is essential for narrative practitioners to acquire the critical, technical, and cultural skills needed to navigate the complexities of our time. The Culture Hack method is at the heart of this fellowship, offering data-driven narrative strategy and tools that democratize knowledge and empower collaborative efforts. Through this initiative, we aim to reforest the key narrative landscapes and foster deep connections among diverse movements, enabling them to coalesce around shared stories and visions. As a fellow, you gain access to the Culture Hack Labs platform, comprehensive training in narrative change methodologies, and invaluable guidance for experienced practitioners. You join a community dedicated to shared practice and mutual support.
So I see myself as a bridge, connecting the world of technology with people, trying to ease the processes between the two worlds.
So I specifically work with Black, Indigenous, and groups of color as they've been returned to land and are holding title organizationally to the land.
I'm the Indigenous coordinator from BIL, who is an alliance for Black and Indigenous people who are facing climate justice, racial justice, and also are fighting against extractivism.
In Phase 1, we laid the groundwork by establishing shared language and sense-making approaches while getting familiar with the Culture Hack tools.
Narratives are absolutely central to achieving a new economic paradigm. We want nature to grow. Things growing is positive, and it's become the only way we really talk about economies. So it's a very big task to change that narrative.
It is a polycrisis, it is a meta-crisis. So taking a singular approach to solving that itself is a false promise. And what's extremely potent about a rhizome, about these networks that interweave with each other, is that they rarely band together as many elements and expertise from very radically different spaces.
The story is that everything is crumbling, but it's actually a new beginning. And that's where I think narrative comes into play, because if we actually start telling stories about there's opportunity here as opposed to everything is crumbling, sometimes things have to fall apart for them to come back together.
In Phase 2 is where the magic happens. We engage in a 4-month planning and hacking phase, focusing on narrative interventions linked by common themes like new economies, social justice, and climate crisis.
Youth in the climate space, particularly those that are engaged with institutional spaces, they are being co-opted. What I've been doing with this Rhizome Fellowship is to imagine a process through which we can establish a conversation around the false climate solutions.
With the big listening, the small listening, I think I had finally the time to ask different questions and see how those answers would speak with what we are doing, to rethink how we do journalism, how are we telling stories, and trying to give birth, I would say, to different sorts of stories narrated from the territories.
This concept of a narrative community that is not necessarily one group of people, but is this body of individuals who think a certain way. There's something very embedded in the rhizome process that is very humanizing of everyone, of the voices that are coming together, because part of shifting narrative is so much understanding who your audience is, understanding what people's beliefs are and why they have them.
Finally, in Phase 3, we gather together in an in-person week to reflect and refine your Culture Hack actions in real time, learning from one another's experiences within the cohort.
Having this global space has been really, really beautiful. and just being able to recognize the way that our struggles are all united, and we can all struggle together, and we can all, live and have joy together too.
Becoming more connected to a global community of people who are fighting the same fight, the same struggle, but for the protection of different territories, different people, and also to realize different possibilities. It's super important.
If you are passionate about reshaping narratives that challenge the status quo and are ready to collaborate with a vibrant community of storytellers, artists, and activism, the Rhizome is for you.
I think the future isn't a single state. I think it has to be pluralistic. There are many futures. But I think a sense of mutual thriving, respect, a humbleness.
The narrative practitioners can play a really important role in that, to really kind of understand what is it that we're letting go, but also the lessons that we need to learn in order to actually not make the same mistakes and to build something new.
I believe that it's a coordinated effort. It's not just about Indigenous communities or about journalists or academicians, but it's a collective effort towards the future.
This is an exciting journey to celebrate and affirm life, both human and more than human, as sacred. Together, we rise on the future.